Hi, and welcome back to Wounded on Sixes. Today we're going to be taking a look at my competitive Necron Cursed Legion list that I'm taking to the Golden Sprue GT next weekend. Will I place high, or am I cursed to be destroyed? Let's take a look. So at the heart of the list, we have the Destroyer. So the Cursed Legion, if you don't know already, gives you +2 strength to all of your Destroyer units, whether in melee or in shooting. And it also allows you to get +2 strength to all of your other units, except for monsters, when a Destroyer cult unit either destroys another model, or unit, sorry, and also brings a unit below half strength. So really increasing the damage here on the Destroyers, but also increasing the damage on everybody else. But really the crux of this list is that we're going to use the Destroyer cult to make our Destroyer cult units better, also make some of our other units better. But what we're really here to do is to use the Destroyers as threats that people have to deal with, while also having to deal with a DDA, a Catan, and the Silent King. So first up, and honestly, the absolute best thing in my list right now has been 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers with a Locust Lord. Now he has the Resurrection Orb and the Lord's Blade, but that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is the 36 emitic shots that we can get at strength 8, -1, 1 damage if we fire at something within 18 inches of all of the models in the unit. We also will get sustained hits on 5s and 6s because of the Locust Lord. This unit has just been doing work, and I really think it's going to catch a lot of people out at the tournament because it's been catching my opponents in my practice games in my local game shop and here at my house out in the open all the time. Not only is it good in the shooting phase, which it's absolutely fantastic in the shooting phase, because guess what? It also has heavy. So it could be hitting on 2s, wounding marine bodies on 2s, and also re-rolling 1s as long as it's not targeting monsters or vehicles. So really, really good in terms of consistency. But it's so consistent, it's even pretty good in the Overwatch phase. And I've been saving a CP to Overwatch with these guys all the time. Really, really good. I love just being able to put them somewhere on the board where they can just continue to fire the entire game, whether it's my turn or my opponent's. I think a lot of people are bringing the heavy gauze weapon with them, but I haven't seen anybody running 3 emitics with the Locust Lord, and I highly recommend it. Not to mention, this thing can heal up. What I've noticed is when my opponents see how good this unit is, they tend to start attacking it a lot more. And having the Resurrection Orb in there really allows me to bring the unit back up, not only just in my command phase, but also maybe at the end of my opponent's turn. So I can come in with a big old shooting turn that they're not expecting the next round. I highly recommend people take a look at the 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Emitics and the Locust Lord. We also have 3 units of Scorpekh Destroyers. Now, normally I think I really like the Scorpekh Destroyers, but they're usually just kind of like, you know, units that I use to like chain charges with. And that's exactly what I'm doing here with them as well. But they're +2 strength naturally in this detachment. So there's strength 9, -2, 2 damage, rerolling hit rolls of 1, rerolling the wound roll on the charge, and also being able to spend its plasma sight to get devastating wounds. So a really, really good unit, but it has to charge. Luckily, in the Destroyer cult, we do have an advance and charge strat that we can use, so we can almost guarantee that we get these units into combat. What's really nice about the Scorpechs too is that they're infantry, so they can go right through walls. We don't have to worry about any kind of terrain getting in our way and making sure that they get there. But they're also like a small enough unit as 3s that we can like kind of chain them along so that you can put one out to do an action if you need to, maybe somewhere in the middle of the board, and then have another one behind that ready to charge whatever goes after your Destroyers. Now, a lot of times people will shoot at the Scorpechs and they'll absolutely melt. So what I've done in a lot of my games is not been afraid to allow my opponents to spend shooting on my destroyers if I need to use my destroyers to score points. Because the way I look at it is, if they're putting shots into these destroyers, they're not putting shots into the Silent King, the Nightbringer, or the DDA. And if they're just allowed to take over the game while people are worrying about my very fast charging melee threats that, yes, if they connect in the charge, they're mostly killing anything that they touch if it's, medium to light infantry. A little bit tougher on those bigger units, but we have bigger things to deal with those. But what they're really good at is blending up light infantry, attacking from cover, and with that strat, we're going to make sure that we're getting them in all the time. Now, there was a while where I was running the Locust Lord, and the Locust Lord, the Scorpekh Lord, is pretty good. But the problem I found is that usually the unit killed whatever it did and then got attacked on the way back. And the Scorpekh Lord would a lot of times just die and not be able to do anything or do any good for me, really. He wasn't really adding anything. And I wanted to be able to make a little bit more room in my list. So I ended up taking him out. I think it's a good choice because I think these Scorpechs on their own are doing a lot of work to really keep my opponents from doing what they want in the board. Now getting past the destroyer models, we then have what I like to call my utility suite of units. So first off, we have a unit of death marks. Almost all Necron armies are bringing a unit of death marks. They have deep strike, really low profile, can get anywhere on the board, really good for scoring. Sometimes I've just dropped them in the middle of the board to get area denial turn 2 because no one's there and I don't want to put anything more important out there. They're going to get me 5 points for a cheap area denial. They're absolutely worth it. But they're also good for any kind of scoring that you need. Not really good at taking out stuff. Maybe if you have them somewhere where they've stood still and their precision could do something, maybe you can pop a light character out of a unit. But honestly, they're really just good for scoring. After that, we have a unit of flayed ones. Again, they're just in here for infiltrate nonsense. However, if they do live, they can become a little bit of a menace on the board because, they're hard to hit with stealth. They're really low profile. They can hang out on our natural expansion. They can run out and really hurt a unit that's below half strength since they can crit on 6 or crit on 3s if they attack into a unit that is below half strength. So they can be sneaky good. A lot of times people will target them down or will put them in a disadvantageous place because we need to kind of build a buffer zone for our infiltrate move. That's absolutely fine. They're not super expensive at 60 points, so I don't mind putting them in harm's way. But if they do survive, they can have a lot more utility on the board. Finally, and something people have, kind of looked at me weird when they see this, but I have a 10-man warrior unit here. Now, the 10-man over the 20 is simply because the 20 is just too expensive. And I think if you're going to bring the 20, then you're bringing the 20 for a much more tactical reason and strategic reason than I'm bringing these. These are really here just to kind of screen out my backfield. Now, the tournament I've already looked at the player pack. There's going to be 4 missions where my home objective will score me primary points. And part of my strategy with this list is I'm going to score at least 2 of my primary objectives every turn. And there's only one mission, one hidden supplies, that I won't get anything for that. And even then, they're really good at screening out the board. I can really string them out. I've had nobody drop in my deployment zone. Nobody's taken my home objective away. And a lot of people look to do that because we put a lot of threats on the board. So they're trying to do anything they can to get behind us. These guys ensure that no one's getting behind us. And, again, on that hidden supplies mission, I plan to just kind of keep them back until it's absolutely feasible, but have them ready to run up when necessary. So I really like this, and I look at it as eating my vegetables in the list. We also have the obligatory 6-man Wraith unit with a Technomancer, and that Technomancer is also bringing 2 Crypt Thralls with him. So everybody who's ever played Necrons or plays Necrons currently knows what the Wraiths are all about. They're a sticky unit that kind of gets onto an objective or into a space on the board and are really hard to move. They have 4 wounds, a 4-up invuln, 5-up feel no pain from the Technomancer, and they also have these 3 wound crypto thralls that they can take the wounds on and then recover wounds back on. So they're really good at holding down an objective. Now, a lot of times, depending on the army that I'm playing, I may put them out on my natural expansion and make sure that I just have that locked down. Sometimes I'll put them in the middle of the board to try to bait my opponent out to come try to take them off. And then I may have a Scorpekh unit or two hiding behind a ruin, ready to pop out and take down the enemy model that gets stuck into my Wraiths. Because it's really hard to take out this unit in one go. If you're going to put your entire army into the Wraiths, then you're taking an entire turn off that you're not dealing with the DDA, the Nightbringer, and the Silent King. So just like the rest of the list here, these Wraiths are about being essentially distraction carnifexes, taking over an objective and working our opponents to our advantage, making them come out to deal with them, whether it be in for shooting that our DDA or maybe our Silent King can take care of. Maybe it's baiting out some infantry that we can then overwatch with our destroyers, or just make sure that our destroyers are wiping them out for us. But this unit is the kind of unit where if you allow it to just take up space, it will continue to grind forward until you have no more board control. So that's the way that I like to play them. They're not damage dealers. They're not very good in combat. They're okay. They're better into smaller things, taking out like higher OCs, smaller infantry units. Yeah, they're pretty decent at that. But honestly, that's not where they shine. Where they shine is basically never dying, staying on an objective, and preventing our opponent from out-primarying us. After the Wraiths, we're bringing a single Doomsday Ark. And, you know, everybody knows that the Doomsday Ark can really do some damage. It's our one really long-range shooting piece here. Can be a little swingy with its D6+1 shots, but it does have a lot of utility. Strength, or T9 with a big old 8, I think it's strength 18 gun. That you can get up to 7 shots more with the blast, although a lot of times this is going into those bigger models because we're not bringing a lot of anti-tank here. We're really relying on this DDA and the Nightbringer and the Silent King to be our anti-tank. What I like about this unit is that if you can get it into a firing lane and just have it sit there and protect it maybe with some Scorpechs that can chain charge anything that come at it, it can be really effective because it has heavy. It also has devastating wounds on its Doomsday cannon when you stand still. So it's more of a piece to just keep firing, keep churning out a lot of high power shots. I also don't mind getting it involved turn 1 because that means that they're not putting a lot of pressure into my Silent King if I move my Silent King out early. And usually a lot of other, like, unless they put a couple of units into it in that first round, which is tough to do, it will come back. I mean, you know, by turn 2, we have so many other threats that our opponent has to deal with. A lot of times they forget about that DDA that they left on 4 wounds. And by the time the game's over, it's almost back to full health. So really, really effective. I've thought about replacing this with something like a Necrusar. Unfortunately, I don't have one. If I did, it might become part of the conversation here. But I'm really liking the utility that I'm getting out of the DDA. And like I said, it's our one long-range heavy firepower shooting. Following up the DDA, we have that new Nightbringer model. And as you can see, mine is on this little base because I kind of broke it putting it together. I hated putting this model together, but I ended up fixing it by creating this like base for it to hang out on. So anyway, the Nightbringer has been an absolute joy to play with. Really powerful unit. Being able to rapid ingress it in, then move 10, shoot and charge. It's really, really hard to kill. I think in a lot of I think it's maybe died one time in all of my practice games. Like, it really can take over a board. Like, a lot of my opponents have just kind of just given up on it. And, you know, sometimes it almost kind of feels like cheating. It's just such a really powerful unit. I mean, it's not super broken in shooting. It only has 3 shots. I mean, it can do damage there for sure, but a lot of times I roll a 1 and don't really do much for my shots. Sometimes I absolutely wreck house, but the melee is really good. I mean, it's just super effective at taking out my opponents. And then his Drain Life ability can also like just remove a unit that it didn't kill because it left on 1 or 2 wounds. So it's got a lot of utility in the damage department. It's not a lot of high OC, but we can really pick and choose our spots with this because it's really the only thing that we have to rapid ingress. We're never, ever rapid ingressing our death marks from Deep Strike, so they can just come down in turn 2 or turn 3. This guy, we're almost always starting in Deep Strike and bringing him down on a rapid ingress to just ensure that he's going to get in. And once he gets in, he can kind of take over the game. And once our opponent is fixated on either taking down the Night King or the Nightbringer, we can just start going to town because we can then start moving all of our units into position, getting super aggressive with our Scorpeks because they're just focused on this and kind of like really take over the board because we have all the units that we need. The Nightbringer is really good, but I would caution to say that you don't want to put it somewhere where their entire army can hit it. So I like to pick a part of the board where they maybe have 1 or 2 threats where I can keep it kind of safe from the other half of their army. That way I ensure that like the 1 or 2 units that he may be able to get into it probably aren't going to have enough to kill it. And with my ability to resurrect it, it's just going to continue to come back. So I wouldn't throw this unit away because it's super powerful and it can do a lot of work. And yes, kind of point of the list is to make people have to deal with this or completely ignore it and allow us to just have that much more board control. But don't throw it away. Make sure you're really preparing yourself for that rapid ingress. And yeah, just an absolute fantastic unit and model. Last but not least, we have the Silent King. So this list did not start with the Silent King. When I started building this list for the GT, I was thinking about, I'm going to bring a 2 Catan list. I only have 2 Catans. I only have the Void Dragon and the Nightbringer. So I was like, I'm going to bring the Void Dragon and the Nightbringer and then kind of figure out the rest. And as the list was coming along and as I was playing in my practice games, I kind of just wasn't feeling the Void Dragon. A lot of the reasons why weren't that like the Void Dragon's a bad model. It's just that it wasn't fitting in with my like strategy for the list. So it has very like short range abilities, short range shooting, a short range data sheet ability. And a lot of times I was having to save my rapid ingress for the Void Dragon and not for the Nightbringer. And a lot of times I was like, when I first was playing this list, I was starting the Nightbringer on the board because I wanted to have, you know, the CP to do the rapid ingress for the Void Dragon. And then like this, the Void Dragon just wasn't doing it. Like it just wasn't, it's okay. It's a good unit and it's the only Catan that I had. It'd probably be in here anyway, but I wanted more. And I found a way to fit the Silent King into the list, and I've been really happy with the results. So the Silent King is a beast. I mean, it can do a lot of work damage-wise within 24 inches. It also is a really great support piece, so increases my leadership, making me better against, you know, armies that want to attack me on the Battle Shock front. It also has a crap ton of support abilities like the reroll, hit rolls, and wound rolls of 1 within 6 inches of him, which is where I'm usually hanging out. Although there have been occasions where the rerolling charge rolls and +1 strength to the Scorpeks has been really effective because now I'm getting those Scorpeks up to strength 10. So now they really can do damage. I mean, you know, especially against something like, you know, like a Riptide that's strength 9. And now these guys are going in there, catching a Riptide, being able to do, you know, wound on 3s against them with that ability. So he's just got way more utility. And I love having that toolbox utility in like a Primarch type unit like the Silent King is. And he also allowed for a little bit more medium range shooting, whereas the Void Dragon just kind of, you just needed to put too much work into the Void Dragon. Whereas my biggest complaint with the Silent King is that he's a kind of a pain in the butt base to move around the board, especially since we will be playing at least one Search and Destroy at this tournament. So, yeah, I mean, would I like the Void Dragon's base more? Sure, but that's not a reason to not take this unit, because it is really effective at bringing the whole list together and being that unit that just improves whatever model it's next to. Since the rules for this tournament locked today, and I don't really see a need to make many changes, this is more than likely the list that I'm going to be taking to the Golden Sprue GT, and I think that it's got some legs. Now, this tournament is going to be attended by some really, really good players. Some of them I know, some of them I've not played before, some of them I have. And I think that we are gonna have to try to surprise some people. I think people are going to be teching for Catan at this tournament, and I am only bringing the one Catan. So I think that we're actually at an advantage, because I think that the meta is going to be looking to go at like a more Pantheon of Woe type list rather than this kind of unique Cursed Legion. I've seen a lot of Cursed Legion lists do not have the full 3-man Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Nimics and the Locust Lord. And I think this unit is going to catch some people out like it has in my practice games. I think that people are either going to forget about the Locust Destroyer or the Scorpekh Destroyers because of things like the DDA and the Silent King and even maybe the Wraiths, or they're going to be like, I can't kill that stuff, let me focus on the Scorpechs. Either way, it feels like victory to me, because if they forget about the Scorpechs are just going to own whatever's trying to take down my big stuff. And if they focus down on the Scorpechs, they're not focusing on the units that are basically game changers. So I like that combo where my opponent really has to, figure out a way to deal with threat assessments as they come, rather than trying to have an overarching plan. Again, better players, I think, are going to give me a hard time, but I think this strategy has a lot of legs. I think having a bunch of different unique threats on the board that people have to deal with is going to make target priority difficult, and it has already seemed to make target priority difficult. What also separates us from a lot of those Pantheon of Woe lists is that we do have a lot of the classic utility units, like the Wraiths, like the Warriors, and the Death Marks, and the Flayed Ones. So we can play all facets of the game for 5 rounds of this tournament effectively. Like, it's very toolbox, this list, and it's the kind of list that I like, which is toolbox list that can go up against a multitude of threats. And like I said, I've had a lot of success in my practice games, and I hope that continues. So let me know what you think about this list down in the comments. Go ahead and like and subscribe to the videos if you haven't. And be sure to come back the following week, where I plan on having a full breakdown of my tournament games from the Golden Sprue GT. So thanks everybody for watching, and come back for more Wounded on Sixes.